I definitely think that there's like a lot of things that kind of lead into like this misconception of KOF being hard to play. Combos like KOF13s are one of those things. One of the other things is like it's a team game, but in a non-traditional sense. So whenever people see that, they're like, okay, I have to learn 3 whole characters, their general game plans, what they do, their combos, their frame traps, their pressure strings, all that stuff. And when you have all those elements kind of like brought together, it leads into like, okay, KOF is a hard game.
Learning characters in KOF is not that bad because they're not really, one, the game has 4 buttons as opposed to 6 like a Street Fighter. Like, you have less buttons to worry about in general. Most characters, they play by the same rules. They have the same win condition. It's not like if you play something like Blaze Blue where you run into Arakune and his win condition is get curse. Like, you don't have to think about stuff like that. It's basically, yeah, your win condition is get the opponent's life bar to 0. However you manage to do it. It's pretty simple in that sense. Some of the games, like, oh, you got assists in 2000, or you have tag in 11, but like 13, 14, 15, like, you don't really have to worry about that much in comparison.
And even like the core of most KOFs is the same. So there's also a lot of like transferable skill that you kind of get from one KOF entry to another.
I think it was KOF 94 and 95. They were just generic Street Fighter clones. The only thing that was really unique about them was the 3v3 format, and you couldn't pick your team in that game. Like, you couldn't pick the individual characters. Like Team Art of Fighting, you had to play Robert, Ryo, and Takuma. If you want to play Yuri, you got to learn King and Mai. Then like 95 lets you customize your teams, and then like gameplay wise, they had spot dodge. That was like the most unique thing.
Okay.
Spot dodge, and like it had 4 dashes. I don't know if that was like, I'm pretty sure other games had it by then. And you had to manually charge your meter, which is like a thing from Art of Fighting. So like that's like, so it was just kind of a generic SNK game at that point. And it just, the 3v3 format was cool. And then 95 came out, more of the same. 96 came out, that's when they decided to add some of the modern mechanics that you see in KOF now. Like, they figured out what makes like KOF unique. Like, they added hops. Like, that was the game that added hops and roll and running. Matter of fact, that game had like a glitch where you could run backwards. It was...
Oh, so 96 is where they added a whole bunch of the mobility options that we're used to now.
Yeah, that's where they added that. But like 97 came out, and that's like a lot closer to what we play now. Like, they have guard cancel mechanics and all that. And 98, they still allowed the old play style in 97, 98. Like, it was called Extra mode.
Mm-hmm.
There was Advanced, which is the modern system, and then Extra was the old manually charge your meter. You have 4 dash instead of run. You had, I think you still had hops, but it made your walk speed faster, I guess. Like that. It was a different system.
Oh, okay.
99, which is when they started adding like all the weird gimmicks like strikers and all that. But that, they got rid of Extra, so they just kept with the modern mechanics ever since. And then 2002, like, I think that one might have added attack cancel roll. There's maybe like a couple gimmicks they add every now and then, or just new mechanics that add to the system, but they never really change it that much. If you learn how to play, let's say KOF 15, the newest game, you learn how to play that, you can go back to 98.
Right.
You could skip a lot of steps learning that game because you already understand the fundamentals. You know, this is what Kyo does. He has a DP, he has Rekkas that has armor on like the first hit or whatever, and you know, all his other moves. He plays the same. He's the same guy.
Right.
And you can even take that to like one of the wackier games like 2000 with characters play the same. The game feels the same. It's just, oh, it has assists now. I gotta learn how the assists work. And that's like, people will just pick up whatever KOF just for fun.
If you were coaching like a new player into KOF, like with all like different like mobility options and whatnot, like what order would you say you want to learn this first, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this?
If you can understand how like you run, understand just basic jumps, like you don't even have to apply like hyper hops or anything right away.
Right.
Like, if you can just understand just the basic moving on the ground, like just move left, right, up, down, and all that, and then you want to, and then applying hop. Like one thing I do, I'll just hit up and then immediately go down, like on the joystick. Like it's really good for hyper hops. It makes some characters like a little awkward, like Benny Maru, where he has the dive kick that's down.
Oh god.
Like, trying to do that's awkward. I guess it depends on like the player, like how easy do they pick this stuff up. If they can understand just basic left to right movement, and then I could teach how to apply hops to that. Like not even hyper hops. Hyper hops are just like it's like if you want a hop that goes a little further.
Right.
And most of the time, like for just simple pressure, a normal hop is good enough. There are some players that like aren't good at hops, but they play characters that play around it. Like you could play a really floaty character. You can play like Athena. Like Athena, you don't really use hop pressure with her. Like that's not her strength. She can do it. Every character can do it.
Right.
But that's not something that's particularly strong with her. So you can kind of play around that, and while you get used to being able to use hops, and then hyper hop is just the next step beyond that. And then of course there's rolls too, where up until maybe like mid-level, even some of that high mid-level, people will just roll way too much. Rolling is very unsafe in the modern KOF. Like 14, it was like pretty good defensively.
Yep.
15, it's still pretty good, but there's just a lot more like recovery to it. Like you can just hit them easier. I don't know if they just made the rolls a little shorter or what, but it feels like it's just easier to punish rolls, and they're not very good offensively either because of that reason. Like if you see a fireball, sometimes if you try to react to the fireball then roll, you're neutral. Like you're not going to punish them for it. You have to make the read that, oh, they're going to fireball, I'm going to roll through, and then try to punish them that way. And then some people just roll way too much, like on offense or on defense, and like you can get blown up for that. Like a really good player is going to destroy you for trying to do that. It's fine in neutral every now and then, but like just using it like in situations where you could use a better option. If you're fighting a Clark, you can throw rolls. So people will try to roll on wake up against Clark. He doesn't care. He's gonna grab you. You have to use your other options, your other movement options. You could like the easiest way is just to like neutral hop against him, and if he whiffs a command grab, like you can just punish him easily for that. As opposed to like jumping away or like even backdashing, it can be a little tricky to punish. Just like understanding just like when to use these movement options is like something like really important to like always keep in mind as you're playing the game. You're going to learn it over time as you play more too. Like you're not going to just understand a lot of these concepts right away.
That's one of the other interesting things about fighting games. We have the game, we have its base mechanics, but everyone learns how to use each of the different mechanics at like a different rate than each other. Yeah. So that's kind of like how you get like the start, what kind of defines a person's play style, and like how quickly that they're able to kind of to rise through each of the respective skill levels. And
with games where that have like more options like that, it's a little easier to tell the difference off bat. People always talk about Street Fighter 4 where like you have like Alex Valle Ryu, or you have Daigo Ryu, the Air Ryu, or Laugh Ryu, and like they're all different. They all make different decisions. They zone a little bit differently. Some of them will go in, some of them will use this option because they have this type of execution. The more options you have, the more obvious it is. But then when you get to like that higher level, it starts disappearing a little bit regardless. People will always have their habits, and being able to pick up on habits is like a strong thing to understand when you're playing fighting games.
It's one of the first like kind of like meta things you want to really focus on whenever you're like trying to get better at a fighting game. Just like pick up on habits, pick up on patterns,
and it carries you so far too.
It does.
You don't have to be the best at executing stuff. You don't have to be the best at like understanding exactly what's going on. Like that's why people like Justin could pick up KOF and beat like maybe like 70% of the US players.
Let me know what you guys think of this discussion in the comments below, and while you're down there, make sure to like this video and also subscribe for more videos on fighting games and the fighting game community. I want to give a very special thanks to all of my subscribers. You guys make this all worth it. I want to give a special thanks to GenesisDC for working with me on this project, so if you want to check out some of the stuff that he's doing, you can check out his socials in the description below. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. I've been ShaolinPretzels, and as always, stay salty.